weren't born broken, but something got in. A foreign code, a virus, a quiet override in the shadows of your psyche. It didn't announce itself. It didn't come with fangs. It came wrapped in familiarity. A parent's cold voice, a lover's betrayal, a system that punished curiosity and praised obedience. And with every repetition, the parasite grew. You thought you were evolving, but you were being rewritten. The dreams you buried, that was its doing. The hesitation you feel before rising, that's the script it installed. And now, you're no longer steering the ship. You react instead of create. You fear instead of act. You overanalyze instead of strike. Not because you're weak, but because you've been infected. These patterns are not just who you are. They are biological malware, hijacking your will, feeding on your hesitation, camouflaging themselves as logic, as humility, even as love. But make no mistake, they were designed to keep you tamed, to keep you predictable, repeatable, a carbon copy running the same emotional program as millions before you. But here's where it ends, because you're not the program. You're the source code. And if you're willing to override the infection, to boot into safe mode, so to speak, you can wipe it clean. But it won't be pretty. You'll have to interrogate every thought like it's a double agent. You'll have to detonate every comfort that whispers, stay where it's warm, stay where it's safe. No, you weren't born to be safe. You were born to be sovereign. So here's how you break free. Fast. Not with affirmations. With mental extraction. Find the first thought that always stops you. That one rotten belief you never questioned. Pull it out by the root. Trace it back to where it first appeared. Was it yours? Or did you inherit it? Once you see it, strip it. Render it useless. Starve it. Replace it with your truth. Not borrowed. Not recycled. Yours. Then do it again. Every day. Every hour. Until the original operating system, your true self, is back online. This is how you reclaim control. Not through motivation, but through internal insurgency. Rewire the patterns. Reboot the mission. Override the virus. Build your own source code, one line at a time. Because no one's coming to patch the bugs in your life. And the system wasn't built to save you. It was built to contain you. So if you want out, you better be ready to break every firewall, to crash every fake identity you've ever downloaded, to delete every emotional attachment that serves the infection. And when it tries to scream back, when the patterns beg you to return, you don't listen. You don't debate. You format. And you walk forward. Pure, brutal, unrecognizable. Because the real you isn't corrupted, just buried. And now it's time to surface. Not as a version of who you used to be, but as the architect of who you were always meant to become. Terminate the patterns. Update the identity. Deploy the warrior. You're not here to repair the system. You're here to break it and rebuild something uninfectable forever. Step 1. System scan. Identify the parasite. They call it thought. You call it self. But in truth, it's a parasite. A pattern living inside your head, feeding off your attention, masking itself as your identity. And it's been there for so long. You forgot it was foreign. The system you run, the way you react, hesitate, retreat, replay. It's not just habit. It's infection. It didn't arrive all at once. It crept in. The day you were criticized instead of corrected. The moment you were punished for speaking the truth. The year you tried and failed and didn't have the guidance to rise again. those moments didn't just pass. They programmed you. And now, the code runs silently in the background, whispering like a virus. You're not ready. You'll mess it up again. Who are you to want more? This is not your voice. It's the parasite talking. So your first mission is a system scan, and not a casual one. This is not self-reflection. This is digital forensics of the mind. This is stepping back from your thoughts and treating them like data. Every loop you obey without questioning, scan it. Every emotional trigger that hijacks your decisions, scan it. Every excuse that's worn the mask of logic, scan it. Because patterns thrive in the dark, and exposure is poison to the parasite. The tools of the scan, the silence audit. Carve out 15 minutes. No phone, no input, no escape. Just you and your internal software. Watch what thoughts surface. Write down the top 3 recurring ones. Then ask, is this thought empowering me or restraining me? The trigger map. What makes you spiral? What situations pull you into self-doubt, anger, withdrawal, guilt? These aren't random reactions. They are landmines programmed by past wounds. Mark them, map them, own them. The identity cross-check. Who do you think you are when no one's watching? Be honest, brutally honest. What roles do you play? The fixer, the victim, the quiet one, the people pleaser? That's not your identity. That's the infection's user profile. You must learn to separate you from the program running inside you. Until then, you will defend the very thing that's destroying you. What to expect? During the scan, it will resist you. The parasite is smart. It will disguise itself in emotional justifications. It will say, this is just how I am. This is survival. This is safer. It's lying. Survival doesn't require self-sabotage. Safety doesn't require self-erasure. And you are not your trauma's echo. Every toxic mind pattern has one mission: to survive by convincing you it's necessary. But once you see it, truly see it, without flinching, it loses control. It knows the purge has begun. Final instructions for step 1. You must approach this step like a hostile takeover of your inner world. Not with kindness, not with patience, with precision, with surgical intensity. No more passive observation. No more, maybe I'll grow out of it. Scan the system. Find the glitch. Mark the invader. And get ready for what comes next. Because once you identify the parasite, you're one step closer to ripping it out by the root. Welcome to mental war. You're not here to cope. You're here to cleanse the code. Step 2. Interrogate the code. Trace the source. You found the glitch, the corrupted loop, the parasite hiding in the shadows of your inner world. Now what? You don't destroy it blindly. First, you interrogate it. Because what you're dealing with is more than just a thought. It's a core script, inserted into your system during a moment of vulnerability and left to fester for years. It became part of your mental DNA. It shaped your reactions, your identity, your relationships, without your consent. But everything unnatural has a source. And until you find it, you'll keep fighting shadows, reacting to symptoms without ever curing the disease. The purpose of interrogation. This isn't therapy. This isn't self-care. This is psychological warfare. You are not here to make peace with your programming. You are here to trace the invader back to its point of entry, so you can shut the portal forever. The question is, where did this code come from? Because here's the brutal truth. Every toxic mind pattern is someone else's fingerprint on your operating system. It might have been a parent, a teacher, an abuser, a coach, a lover, or even a moment. One isolated failure you never emotionally closed. And in that moment, a seed was planted. A belief that you were unworthy, incapable, unsafe, or unlovable. And from that seed, an entire system of behavior grew silently. How to interrogate the code. Use these tools to expose the origin. 1. The memory trigger drill. Take one of the recurring toxic thoughts you uncovered in step 1. Now ask, when did I first feel this way? Not last week, not last month. The first time. Sit with that question. Let your subconscious surface the memory. Don't force it. Let it rise like smoke from an old fire. You'll know when you find it. Your body will react. Your throat will tighten. Your heartbeat will change. That's the source. That's the breach in your system. 2. Reverse engineer the emotion. Now isolate the emotional signature of that belief. For example, I always screw things up. Emotion, shame, origin, childhood moment where your effort was punished instead of praised. Or, no one ever really sees me. Emotion, abandonment, origin, a parent too distracted to notice your needs. Don't gloss over this. Get exact. Get savage. Get cold. You're not revisiting pain to wallow. You're dissecting it like a scientist dissecting a virus. 3. Strip the mask. Ask the belief. Whose voice is this? Would I speak this way to someone I love? What was the hidden agenda behind this message? Because most patterns don't come from truth. They come from projection. Someone who was broken made you believe you were. Someone who felt weak made you doubt your strength. Someone who feared your power trained you to suppress it. But now, you see the code for what it is, not yours. That's the first cut. The emotional fallout. This step will hurt, because the parasite doesn't want to be seen. It feeds on distortion. It wants you to think you created it, that this is just who you are. But once you see the manipulation, once you trace the line of infection back to its source, the whole illusion collapses. And what's left is rage, not at yourself, but at the system that made you doubt yourself in the first place. Use it. That fire you feel is your system rebooting. It's not weakness. It's clarity. It's you returning to command. Your mission objective for step 2. Trace each major toxic belief back to its origin. Identify the exact moment, memory, or influence that installed it. Separate your identity from the implanted code. Feel the pain. Then extract the lesson. Burn the rest. You are not the belief. You are the architect dissecting the program that tried to enslave your mind. Interrogation isn't pretty. It's bloody. It's real. And it's necessary. Because before you can reprogram your system, you must erase the lie that built it. Step 3. Isolate the pattern. Break the loop. You've scanned the system. You've traced the virus to its origin. Now comes the blood sport. Loop disruption. Toxic patterns do not survive on logic. They survive on momentum. They operate in loops. Closed circuits that replay over and over until your identity becomes a side effect of your programming. It goes like this. A trigger happens. You feel an old emotion rise. That emotion activates a belief. The belief controls your reaction, and the reaction reinforces the original loop. Trigger, emotion, belief, reaction, reinforcement, repeat. Every time you obey that pattern, it deepens, it hardens, it becomes you. Not because it's truth, but because you never interrupted it. This is how people live decades in the same emotional cage. Not because the bars are locked, but because they never realized they were allowed to walk out. You don't escape a mental loop by understanding it. escape by breaking it. Right now, not later, not next time, not when you feel ready. Now, and here's how. Tactical protocol. Break the loop. 1. Observe the activation sequence in real time. The parasite speaks in first person. It says, I always mess up, not, you always mess up. So the moment that inner voice speaks in absolutes, I'll never be good enough. I always fail. I shouldn't even try. That's the alarm. That's the code executing its loop. Stop. Right there. No reaction. No movement. Observe. This is the moment you were never trained to recognize. But once you do, you see it for what it is. A script, not a truth. And all scripts can be rewritten. 2. Create the disruption command. Once the loop tries to initiate, you must inject a new signal. You do this by crafting a disruption command, a phrase, movement, or action that cuts the program mid-execution. Examples. A verbal command. Override. A mental trigger phrase. This is not mine. Delete a physical break. Standing up, walking out, punching your palm, cold shower, sprint. It doesn't need to be poetic. It needs to be brutal and decisive. You're not arguing with the thought. You're killing its process before it completes. That alone changes everything. 3. Redirect the energy immediately. Breaking a loop without redirecting the charge creates emotional whiplash. So once you disrupt it, redirect the energy. Use it. Energy that used to spiral can now become action. Examples. Journal one sentence of the new belief. I am not this loop. I am the rewriter. Do 10 push-ups while repeating the override phrase. Speak your future truth out loud like a battle cry. Remember, old beliefs live in the body, not just the brain. You must move if you want to break the cycle. 4th, track the loop's recurrence patterns. Toxic loops don't die easily. They're stubborn, predictable, opportunistic. So track them. Become the hunter. Create a log. What triggered it? What time of day? What emotional state were you in? Did you break it or feed it? Turn your life into a war room. Patterns can't survive consistent exposure and strategic tracking. The more you monitor, the weaker they become. The mental shift. From loop victim to loop predator. This is the identity upgrade. You're not the one being triggered. You're the one tracking the trigger. You're not the one spiraling. You're the one detonating the pattern midair. This is where transformation becomes inevitable. Because loops are not chains. They're habits of obedience. And the moment you stop obeying, they starve, they panic, they die. What happens next? The silence, the discomfort, the craving to run the old pattern just once more. That's withdrawal. Your nervous system isn't used to peace. It's addicted to chaos masquerading as familiarity. But this is the test. This is the threshold. And if you can hold the line long enough, the code rewrites itself. You don't have to fix the loop. You just have to break it again and again until it never runs. Final objective of step 3. Recognize the trigger in real time. Inject a disruption command, verbal, physical, or psychological. Redirect the energy. Track recurrence until pattern collapse. This is how the parasite dies. Not in a single moment, but in 1,000 intentional severings. No applause, no audience, just you, facing the ancient voice in your head and refusing to play its game ever again. Step 4. Rewire the circuit. Install the upgrade. You've burned the old blueprint. Now what? You build. You construct a new internal architecture. Not patched, not recycled, not healed, but rewritten from source. Because once the toxic loop is broken, The void doesn't stay empty. Nature abhors a vacuum. And if you don't fill it with new, deliberate, bulletproof programming, the parasite will return. Worse, something darker will take its place. So this phase isn't optional. It's your firewall. It's the phase where you evolve from someone who resists the old to someone who embodies the new. The law of replacement. Here's a truth no one teaches. You don't erase a belief. You replace it. You don't heal trauma by letting go. You overwrite the frequency of that pain with a new dominant frequency. Conviction, strength, clarity. Your mind is a circuit, a live wire. Every belief you install either empowers your mission or sabotages it. There is no neutral. How to install the upgrade. A tactical blueprint 1. Write the code of your future self. You cannot become what you cannot define. You must architect the internal language of the upgraded identity you're stepping into. But not vaguely. Write it like code, like scripture, like a declaration of war. Ask yourself, what does the upgraded version of me never entertain? What does this version believe about failure, rejection, money, power, love, responsibility, silence, chaos? What emotional responses are automatic for this version? What is the internal tone of their thoughts? Cold, precise, unshakable? Write it down, line by line. Not motivational fluff, system code. This identity does not explain itself. This identity executes under pressure. This identity chooses purpose over pity, mission over mood, honor over ease. 2. Install through repetition, under pressure. A belief isn't installed by writing it once. It's installed through repetition, under emotional intensity. You must condition this identity into your nervous system like combat training. Here's how. Read your identity script out loud, with conviction, every day. Especially when your emotions are raw. Record yourself speaking it. Listen back while walking, training, or staring into the mirror. Interrupt old loops mid-sequence and inject these new lines like override commands. You're not just thinking positive. You're writing firmware into the circuitry of your subconscious. The same way the virus got in. Repetition, emotion, vulnerability. Now you use the same tools against it. 3. Emotional conditioning. Through action. The final layer of installation comes through action. The new belief must be proven in the field. Every time you act in alignment with the new code, even when it feels unnatural, you reinforce it. Examples. The old code says, don't speak up. You raise your voice in a room where you'd normally shrink. The old code says, you're not ready. You launch, lead, initiate anyway. The old code says, you'll fail again. You reframe failure as feedback, and you move faster. These aren't just choices. They are rituals of reinforcement. Each one etches the new identity deeper into your mind. The parasite weakens. The upgrade strengthens. What to expect? System resistance. The old code will scream. It will tell you this new identity is fake, that you're forcing it, that you're lying to yourself. But here's the truth. Every new identity feels like a lie until it becomes your default. You are not lying. You are leading. You are dragging your nervous system across the battlefield of the past and planting your flag in new territory. This is the hard part. Because most people give up here. They mistake discomfort for misalignment. Don't. That discomfort, that resistance, it's your brain being rewired in real time. You're not confused. You're being rebuilt. Hold the line. Your final objective for step 4. Write your new identity in detail. Make it real, sharp, and unapologetically bold. Speak it, Hear it, repeat it, under pressure, in silence, before action. Reinforce it with bold behavior that proves the code. Expect internal resistance and override it with relentless consistency. This is not mindset work. This is identity war. This is where victims vanish and commanders emerge. You're no longer reacting to life. You're installing a version of yourself that designs it. And if you stay in this phase long enough, the old you becomes a ghost. Unrecognizable, unreachable, irrelevant. Because once the upgrade is complete, there's no going back. Step 5. Fortify the firewall. Set boundaries with precision. You've come too far to leave your mind unguarded. You've scanned. You've interrogated. You've broken the loop. You've installed the upgrade. But now, you must protect it. Because nothing invites an attack like transformation. As soon as your energy shifts, as soon as you start thinking independently, moving differently, speaking with purpose, the system will try to reclaim you. Not because it hates you, because it needs you back in line. The parasite doesn't die in silence. It sends out distress signals, and those signals, they often come through people, through environments, through nostalgia traps, through old desires dressed in new clothes. If you don't build a firewall around your mind, if you don't ruthlessly control what enters your space, your upgrade will be compromised. Not because it wasn't strong, but because you left the door open. What is the firewall? Your firewall is your boundary system, the invisible perimeter around your identity that protects you from external sabotage and internal collapse. And it must be precise, ruthless, non-negotiable. Not, maybe I shouldn't talk to them. No. I do not allow contamination in this system. Your identity is sacred. Anything that threatens its clarity, conviction, or trajectory must be cut. How to fortify the firewall. Tactical Defense Blueprint 1. Conduct a full environmental audit. Your environment is code. Every sound, every face, every screen, every room. Ask yourself, what conversations drain me? Who still speaks to the old version of me like it's alive? What spaces pull me back into loops I've escaped? Don't rationalize. Observe. If it doesn't support your new code, it's malware. And malware doesn't get negotiated with. It gets deleted. 2. Install input filters. Your brain is shaped by what it consumes. News, media, music, podcasts, social feeds. They're not entertainment. They're neurological inputs. And every input is either reinforcing your identity or corrupting it. Your new self is fragile in its early stages. You must protect it from noise disguised as inspiration. Set filters. Block content that glorifies chaos, victimhood, or emotional volatility. Follow only that which reinforces power, clarity, strategy, and action. If it distracts your mission, cut the signal. You are not here to be entertained. You are here to build an empire from the inside out. 3rd set, relational firewalls. This is the most brutal part, the part that costs you people. And you must be willing to pay. Because some people, they're not people anymore. They're walking reminders of your past code. Their words pull you back. Their energy pulls you down. Their expectations force you into masks you've outgrown. They will not understand the upgrade. They will tell you you've changed. They will guilt you, shame you, beg for access, deny it. This firewall isn't about hate. It's about preservation. You can't evolve in a circle that's committed to your previous version. 4. Define the non-negotiables. Write your firewall policy. Yes, Write it, line by line, so clear that there is zero room for compromise. Examples. I do not explain myself to those who drain my energy. I do not revisit places that diluted my ambition. I do not tolerate conversations rooted in fear, gossip, or delusion. I do not trade temporary peace for long-term erosion. This isn't arrogance. This is identity insurance. Every time you enforce these lines, you reinforce the new code. 5. Automate the response protocol. You don't have time to figure it out every time chaos knocks. You need pre-planned scripts. Someone tries to provoke you? I'm not available for this energy. Someone tries to bait you into the old story? That version of me no longer exists. Someone violates your time or space? I said no. Respect it, or exit. Your boundary isn't a suggestion. It's a command line. Execute it without hesitation. What happens if you don't? Everything collapses. Not immediately, but slowly, subtly. You'll find yourself explaining again, overcommitting again, exhausted again, second-guessing again. And before you realize it, you've reinstalled the very code you burned to the ground. Not because it was stronger, but because you didn't secure the gate. Final objective of step 5. Audit your environment. Filter your inputs. Set precise relational firewalls. Define non-negotiables in writing. Prepare your automatic defense scripts. Enforce relentlessly, unapologetically, consistently. Your mind is no longer public property. It is a fortress, and you are the only one with keys to the gate. Let the old system knock. Let the voices scream. Let the guilt rise. But never, ever open the door. Because the only thing more painful than building the new you is letting the old you return. Step 6. Stay in command. Deploy daily override rituals. Let's get one thing straight. Change without ritual is temporary. You can read the books, burn the bridges, cut the cords, rewrite the beliefs. But if you do not establish daily override rituals, the old code will return, not because it's stronger, but because consistency always wins. And if you're not actively commanding your mind, something else will. The past, the trauma, the fear, the pattern, they are all waiting, patient, silent. So this final phase is not about emotion. It's about discipline at the level of identity. You've cleansed the system. Now you must own the operating seat. Every day. What are daily override rituals? Override rituals are small, non-negotiable behaviors that reinforce your upgraded identity and keep you in command of your mind. They are not optional. They are not flexible. They are firewalls, triggers, anchors, and declarations, deployed strategically to prevent relapse, neutralize self-sabotage, and keep your mission alive. This is no longer about healing. It's about holding the throne. The 5 core override rituals. 1. Morning command sequence. Begin every day with sovereign input. You don't start your day with news, texts, or noise. You start it by reminding your mind who is in control. Ritual options. Identity. Read through. Read your future identity script, written in step 4, aloud, with intensity. Cold activation, cold shower, breathwork, or movement within 5 minutes of waking. Pattern disrupt the mind before it can run old code. Silence plus directive. Thought. Sit in total stillness and ask, what must I dominate today? Then move. This isn't morning routine. It's a takeover ceremony. 2nd, daily pattern tracking. Scan for bugs in the system. Every evening before sleep, review the day like a general reviewing a battlefield. Ask, where did the old code try to speak today? Did I react or override? What triggered weakness or emotion loops? Where did I enforce the new self with action? Keep a log. The brain respects what is tracked. What is tracked becomes sharpened. Third, tactical emotional override. Disrupt weakness with movement or mantra. When emotion hits hard, self-doubt, fear, laziness, anger, you don't spiral. You deploy a ritualized override. Examples: verbal command, override, return to command. Physical disruption, drop for 20 push-ups, cold rinse, punch your hand, get primal. Recode mantra, this feeling is a test, and I eat tests. You're not at war with emotion, but you refuse to let it hijack the system. Fourth, environmental cleanse ritual, reinforce the fortress. Once a week, minimum, you conduct a cleanse. Audit your digital inputs, physical space, and social circles for contamination. Ask, what drained me this week that I allowed in? Who or what tried to pull me back into the old identity? What did I let slide that weakens my fortress? Clean it, clear it, block it, cut it. This is not about being antisocial. This is about spiritual hygiene. Fifth, weekly sovereignty ritual. Reflect, reset, and rearm. Choose one day a week to sit with yourself. No distractions. Revisit your new identity script, your non-negotiables, your mission, your past wins, your future territory. Then ask, am I living as the architect or as the automation? And if the answer is automation, reset. Now, because sovereignty isn't given once, it's earned daily. What happens if you miss these rituals? You slip, not because you're weak, but because your old identity is a gravity well. And if you don't climb with intention, you fall with familiarity. You begin justifying small compromises. You ignore the voice. You skip the script. You let weakness back in. Just this once. And that one moment becomes a reinstallation point. You lose momentum, then clarity, then self-respect, until one day you look in the mirror, and the old you is back in control. Final objective of step 6. Deploy a morning command ritual daily. Track emotional and behavioral patterns every night. Use override responses during emotional flare-ups. Cleanse your environment and inputs weekly. Revisit your mission, identity, and rules every 7 days. You are no longer the passenger. You are the operator. You don't wait to feel powerful. You deploy systems that make you powerful. You don't beg for clarity. You maintain clarity through ritual. And you don't fear relapse, because you're too busy fortifying the throne. This is how you break free permanently. Not by force, by dominance. Daily, relentless, unshakable. Welcome to the final phase. Your mind is no longer a battleground. It's a kingdom, and you are its undisputed ruler. You came here infected, not weak, not broken, but overridden by code that wasn't yours, by thoughts planted in silence, by patterns passed down like curses, by a system designed to keep you obedient, predictable, safe, and small. But not anymore, because now, you've done what few ever have the courage to do. You waged war on your own mind. You didn't just identify the enemy. You scanned the system, uncovered the parasite, and refused to pretend it was just who you are. You interrogated the code, traced every toxic loop back to its origin. You faced the memories that created your chains and ripped the mask off the lie. You isolated the pattern, cutting the emotional loop before it could control you, replacing reaction with ruthless disruption. You rewired the circuit, not with wishful thinking, but with weaponized identity. You didn't hope to become someone new. You installed the blueprint. You became the architect. You fortified your firewall, cutting off infection at the source. No more open doors, no more explaining, no more returning to the scene of your own erosion. And now, you stay in command, every single day. Not because it's easy, but because you've built override rituals that make relapse impossible and domination inevitable. This is real transformation. Not the kind that makes you feel better, the kind that makes you unstoppable. Because you didn't just clean your mind, you rebuilt it into a fortress of war. A system designed not just to survive this world, but to conquer it. And now, the virus is gone. The loops are broken. The throne is reclaimed. But your work is not over. Because every day the world will try to drag you back into the noise, into the patterns, into the role you used to play. Don't take the bait. Hold the line. Run the code. Enforce the boundary. Override the weakness. Speak the new identity. Because you are no longer a product of your past. You are a commander of your mind. And when the voices rise again, when the doubt returns, you don't negotiate. You don't flinch. You look the loop in the eye and whisper, "Override. I'm not yours anymore. Now go. This is your system. Command it, or be commanded. Lead it, or be led. Rewrite it, or be erased. The war is over, but the watch has just begun."